Welcome back. In this segment, we are going to discuss The Red Hood and the Outlaws #1 and Hellblazer Rebirth #1. Red Hood and the Outlaws Rebirth #1. Jason Todd's retelling of his backstory. As Red Hood, Jason Todd appears to kill the mayor at gunpoint. He recalls what happened at the hands of Joker and after. He's recruited by the Black Mask in his false face society. Batman and Red Hood have a discussion, and Red Hood actually cured the mayor of a techno-organic virus. He tells Batman that he is going to go deeper into the Gotham underworld by becoming one of them. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, hey Batman, I'm going to be a criminal. You know, but I like this issue because Jason Todd is, what's the best way to describe Jason Todd?
Maybe a loose cannon.
Mm-hmm.
Especially going into this issue, we didn't really know where he would fit into the Bat family. And then to open it up and a couple pages in, he looks like he pops a bullet in the mayor's head right in front of Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, whoa, okay.
Look, I was thinking like he's a very polarizing character. His origin, he started out on the wrong side of the tracks. He just went through. He had that street smart, he had the survive mentality, and he's carried that through. Does that make him the black sheep of the Bat family?
I don't know. I think some of it probably has to do with him getting killed off and reborn, and also the, I think there is still kind of some resentment to Batman for that. I mean, he did take the identity of, one of the Joker's past identities.
Right.
So it would be a little confrontational towards Batman.
I think one of the flashbacks saying he felt hurt that Batman didn't avenge him after he lost that, and so he went the way he knew how. And this issue kind of showed like when he was looked like he was trying to kill the mayor, and he took down the cops, and really his MO was to cure him of a techno-organic virus that he knew about because Batman told him, hey, look into this a little bit further. So his MO was good, but there was no communication between Batman and Red Hood.
Yeah, but sort of at the same time, that also allows the Red Hood to act like a villain. I mean, he shot the mayor in the head to make it, essentially staging an assassination while actually performing a cure on him. Basically just to ingratiate him with Gotham's underworld.
Yes.
And you see that when he's at the bar and you see all the other guys are, cheering at what he did. That's...
Well, yeah, he really trial by fire. Do you think that was his end game all along, to make it look like he was going to kill, and then when word got out so he can infiltrate like the False Face Society or any other Gotham underworld?
It looks like that may have been like the capstone on that, because I mean, doing one thing isn't gonna probably get you in with all the other villains, but because it looked like he was already sort of in there, but then to do that and be approached by the guy from the False Face Society. So it's funny because it's sort of, I get kind of vibes from Nightwing on this, because at the same time Nightwing's undercover, so to speak, with the Court of the Owls. But he's really not doing villainous acts. He's doing, at least heroic acts. And here's Jason Todd going undercover in a completely different fashion with another really different organization. So it's an interesting parallel between two former Robins.
It is. The title is, of course, called Red Hood and the Outlaws. But we haven't seen the Outlaws in this issue, but we know who the future Outlaws are going to be. You want to go off on that one a little bit?
Well, he has, since in the New 52, Red Hood had Starfire and Arsenal. And Starfire is presumably back on the Teen Titans. Arsenal, we know, is back on the Titans. So he now, at some point, will be shacking up with Wonder Woman's Amazonian friend Artemis and Superman's enemy Bizarro. So that'll be interesting.
how cohesive of a unit could that be?
I don't know. I who knows? It seems kind of like Jason sort of runs, just goes with the flow. So we'll see. I'm more curious to know how they're just going to hook up.
Yeah, how is
that going to happen? Is that all going to be in Gotham?
I think water and oil. How do those three, and how can Jason Todd lead some very strong...
I think some of that might kind of be pulling from the New 52, because the New 52 Bizarro was a little more cohesive and a little more heroic, especially during the Forever Evil story arc, where he teams up with Luthor. They fight all the crime syndicate together, and Bizarro ends up dying in that fight. So I'm assuming this isn't the same Bizarro, where it's another clone of Bizarro.
Right. That's just a Bizarro all the way around. Red Hood and the Outlaws, good start so far.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that, and going into the Black Mask too. The Black Mask is one of my favorite Batman villains. Mm-hmm. So to get to end it, at least he's back from the dead too. Last I knew, Catwoman put a bullet in his head in the early 2000s. So good to see him back again.
Yes. Hellblazer Rebirth #1. 1 year ago, John Constantine had a curse placed upon him by a demon he calls Laughing Boy, forcing him to leave London. Now 1 year later, Constantine returns to London to try to get the curse lifted off of him. He uses a spell to deflect the curse off him and cursing everyone else in London. Shazam and Wonder Woman get ready to stop Constantine when Swamp Thing shows up and has them stand down. He succeeds by having an old acquaintance named Mercury say the name of the demon, allowing Constantine to have power over the demon. This was a strange issue for me. I liked it, and I will say that I liked the Constantine show when they originally had it a couple years ago, and this seemed like it was just another episode on TV for me.
Yeah. It's a good introduction to the character of John Constantine if you're not familiar with him. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of hard to not be familiar with him for comic books, because he is sort of in his own little corner of the DC universe in terms of his moral obligations or lack thereof.
Yeah, that whole occult kind of going by himself, really a corner. Mm-hmm. Where does he fit in with the grand scheme of DCU? And more importantly, after reading this issue, was he playing chicken with the demon?
I think so. I mean, Constantine's entire character is that he's a con man who deals in the occult.
Right.
I mean, he spends his entire life trying to gauge whether people are lying or telling the truth, and that apparently applies to the demons too.
Right. It was. You knew he was playing a high-risk game. The demon knew that. Yeah. I was surprised he let it go on as long as he did, but while that was happening, we saw kind of Shazam and Wonder Woman as kind of the magic police within the DC universe. Mm-hmm. They were watching over Constantine and watching over his actions. Does this set up something further that maybe Constantine and Shazam know more? Wonder Woman and Shazam, do they know more about Constantine than we're led on? And why did he come back to London in the first place if he had that curse? He mentioned something that the reason he came back, but why risk it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, plus I think it's worth noting, this is, I think, the first DC Rebirth appearance of Shazam. So we know he's still in the universe. But that is, for who seems like a fairly lowly occult detective, those are two pretty big superpowers to bring in just to watch over him. And of course, that is a pretty big curse that he ends up deflecting to all of London, which they basically liken to being like a sort of demonic plague. Yes. Essentially. Yes. Yeah, which could conceivably wipe out quite a bit of that. But it's also it would be interesting to know how did Shazam and Wonder Woman even know? Right. I mean, who told him? I mean, that could have been Shazam, one of his powers, or maybe he learned it through the Rock
how
of
did
Eternity.
They know he was already there? Yeah. And they were watching real close. Did they already have a preconceived notion that, hey, he is going to let this curse continue? So I think that's interesting. So we kind of have like the gatekeepers of the magic community with Shazam and Wonder Woman. And also Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing comes to the defense of Constantine. Mm-hmm. And they've had a pretty good pairing before in the New 52 in some back older stories, didn't they?
Yep. Well, and Constantine actually made his debut in a Swamp Thing comic.
Okay.
And they've kind of been, I want to say, the odd couple in the DC universe, because you have, the guy made out of plants and the con man who would sort of seemingly sell anyone to save his own skin, but they've made a very effective pair, and that continued on with Justice League Dark in the New 52.
So we might see more of that pairing as we go forward.
I hope so. That would be cool.
Well, where does Constantine go from here?
I have no idea. I really couldn't get any good sense from the end of that issue.
Right.
The only thing I did pick up on was when Constantine is talking to the demon, Naibaz, but his name at the end of the story, is Naibaz tells Constantine to go back to New York, and he says, "I'll take care of London."
Right.
Or leave London to me.
Yeah.
That's what he says. It's like, what does he mean by back? I mean, is Naibaz somehow kind of patrolling the supernatural in London? It's an interesting statement to make. And maybe it wasn't, maybe he meant leave London to me, as in I'm gonna, start plucking off the people in London, or
Yeah, we'll find out. But I think as an issue, you'll probably agree with me, this was a great starting point to get onto this character. Would just give you enough to feel comfortable going forward with them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is the crash course into Constantine 101, I think.
Yeah, the little Cliff Notes edition of Constantine.
Pretty much.
He's a complex character with a lot of layers of, I'm just thinking the layers of self-loathing and con artistry